Hello, good morning. This is Brian from Commute Air, along with Alina Cooper, and we're going to continue talking about um, working on your resume, questions you might have when you're applying for a job. Um, I'm going to start here in a moment. Let me just make it bigger. All right, I think we're good to go. All right, so I'm going to start with this one. So I think a big topic that everyone, or a big topic in general with trying to get a job is application discrimination. And what I did is I defined it and I will read it for you. It is illegal for an employer to discriminate against a job applicant because of his or her race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, disability, and genetic information. So it's basically protecting everyone from being discriminated against. And so some questions that you might have is, I have a really unique ethnic name. Are they going to see that and not hire me? Question is, with what I just read, legally, they should not. I think one of the most important things to do to just not even have that in your mind to even think about is to just make sure when you fill out your application online, make sure, I mean, it's like the number one thing, make sure everything is complete. And then that way they don't have a reason to be like, oh, well, this person doesn't know what they're doing because they didn't fill out the application completely. So I just think, like, if you just make sure it's complete, have someone look it over, double check it again, you should be good to go on that. Another question that I put here, I have a lot of experience, but I'm afraid people think I'm too old to work. Um, it's kind of like that old crew, can't teach a dog new tricks, but I also feel like you can. And just because you've done a job for a really long time doesn't mean you can learn more. And I don't think you should go into a job situation or even applying or talking. If you do get or if you do get an interview, not to be like, well, I've done this forever and I'm just, really good. I mean, you should always be open to learn. Just be like, oh my gosh, there's probably like all these like new ways or methods of doing things. I think that's kind of the approach you need to take instead of like, well, I've just been doing this forever. It's just another job and that's that. Or if you want to turn it into something like, well, since I have done this forever, like, I mean, examples like an HVAC installer, you install furnaces for 10 years. Maybe try to be the person that instead of like installs, be the person that sets up all the appointments, try something different. That's a different way of kind of doing things. Let me get to the next slide here. All right. So how do I get the employer's attention? Like I put here, have the complete application. That is the most important thing. If there's a place, especially if you do it electronically, to include a cover letter or just something, just a little bit, or a personal statement about yourself. Why do you want this job? Why is it interesting to you? What can you offer that will be of value to the employer? Once again, I think we talked about this not last time, but the time before the presentation. Have 3 strong references, just to have those like so quick. So you can put those down. And then after you've done that, have all the applications looked over by someone to look for mistakes. That's the biggest thing. Sometimes when you spend too much time on a resume and you're like looking it over, you sometimes just overlook things and not even know it. So it's really important to look over stuff. Also have the complete work history is as best as you can remember, dates and positions. And then lastly, a reference letter, or past performance evaluations, or just something, have like someone said something good about like how you work, like how you've worked and how you work well with others. That's always good to put into. So another big issue, not an issue, but for females, a lot of times they want to, or not a lot of times, I don't want to say it wrong, but like this question. I'm a woman interested in a male dominated field. And I put this stat out, which I is very true. I see it. I think Alina and I see it where we're at. There's a lot of women in the workforce now. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, there are now 109,000 more women working than men. It's believed that that by experts in this trend will continue and gain more momentum as the number of working women increases while the amount of men in the workforce declines. I personally was a stay-at-home dad. I did that while my significant other was working. So I think it's very important to talk about this. I think that you shouldn't be intimidated by a position that is male dominated. Alina, do you have anything to say on this?
Yes, I mean, I see a lot of women that can be afraid of potentially trying to progress in the world just because in certain industries it is male dominated. For example, working in aviation, we went to Women in Aviation back in March, and it is a small percentage of women, but also at the same time, just because, and I know obviously the stigma, just because a man can do it doesn't mean that you can't do it either. So I love seeing the numbers of women being more taking over the workforce. I love seeing women progress into higher positions. I love seeing that there is just more equality when it comes to the workforce industry. I hope that this is a continuing trend. And also, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. If for example, in labor, a lot of people might consider that a more so male dominated industry. I've hired tons of women that worked in the labor industry, and also people of different origins, of different nationalities. So I'm of Latina. I have a Latina background. So hearing that, for example, this past decade, I think there's been more Latino graduates than there has been. So it's a super impressive number to see, and I'm very happy that it's continuing to grow. So don't be afraid. If you're a woman, you can do it and you will do it. So just continuing believing in yourself is the most important thing.
And then just a little side note, that is one of our airplanes in the back with one of our managers. I think she's based in Dulles. But yeah, just to give you a little background on that. And then lastly, your dream job. I mean, instead of, and a couple slides we talked about, I have all this experience in this job, blah, blah, blah. Well, here, why don't you try your dream job? I mean, maybe you should spend time and sit down and on just a sheet of paper and just write down what kind of like this board says, like maybe something different, figure out what you'd really like to do. And then do research on it. I mean, I think research is like it's a great tool. I mean, you can go online, you can get books about it, you can talk to people. I don't know if Seeds, there's people where it can guide you in the right direction to talk to people in different areas of work. And that'll help you. And then just ask questions. The worst thing, this always sticks with me, but the worst thing someone can say is no. So
I also wanted to add some things about that. So for example, like I worked in sales before I started recruiting. My friend, I know somebody that was doing this prior to me even getting into recruiting, and I said, wow, your job seems so cool. You get to go to all these fun places and do all these fun things. And I said, I want to do that one day. So I realized what I needed to do. I put in my time with my current employer. And then eventually, once I felt like I was ready to leave, I started putting my resume out there. And then I started off doing entry-level recruiting. So I hired for manufacturing, call centers, labor, And then eventually, once I felt like I was ready to take it to the next level, I was working at another place and I really liked it. I was enjoying it, but my friend said, "Hey, they're hiring, you should apply." And I said, I'm afraid. I don't want to look bad. I just started here and I really like it here." And she said, "Alina, this is your dream. So don't let yourself get in the way of your dreams either. If there's an opportunity out there that you have been wanting and you see it and it's open, go for it. Because at the end of the day, you don't want any regrets, feeling like you could have, should have, and would have." So that's my take on that.
I think it's a great take. I'm in my situation, I did a total career change midstream. So yeah, I mean, just make the best of it. And like I went back to school for something that I'm not doing right now. So I tried it, I didn't like it, and now I'm doing something that I really like. So all you can do is just trial and error and hope for the best. So with that, that concludes my slides for today. And I guess we will talk to you, or not, I guess, I will talk to you, Alina will probably do more of the talking next week. So see you then. All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.